Best practices for lifecycle management have to encompass configuration management, versioning, and dealing with long-lived systems. Make sure to take configuration management and versioning seriously. They're different. Recall that configuration management is about knowing which version's in a particular product, while versioning is keeping straight, okay, I have a version number, but where's the source code, how do I rebuild it, and so on. Making all this work requires using a formal build process to create and release your product. Ideally, this entire process is automated based on configuration management data. You can query a particular product to find out exactly which version's in it, and you have an archive build script that knows for that version of product, here are the versions for all the different pieces, here are the versions of tools used to build those pieces, and so on, so that at a push of a button, given a version number, you can absolutely recreate the complete binary image from source code for that product. That gives you a basis to do diagnosis, to make changes, and so on if there's a downstream problem or there's a question about what's going on with your particular version of software. Make sure to plan for at least twice the life cycle you think will happen. Embedded systems can live, it seems, forever. And at that, 2x won't cover everything, but it's a good rule of thumb. Make sure you have a plan for product end of life. The components being sold to you will undergo end of life, or you may have to retire your product. Think about that up front rather than when it's a crisis at the end. There are a number of pitfalls for life cycles. One pitfall is releasing the wrong version. It's surprisingly common to build and release a development version instead of a production version, or a debug version with a watchdog timer turned off, and so on. You need a good, rigorous build process to make sure the software you're shipping actually has all the versions of the pieces you think it should have. Another pitfall is cutting corners on software configuration management. If your configuration management's a mess and you have a field failure, it may be difficult or impossible to reconstruct the software inside that product so that you know what was actually going on. Another pitfall is getting caught without replacement parts. At some point, the CPU you're using, or the memory you're using, or other hardware components you're using, or even the operating system you're using will be end-of-lifed. The manufacturer will say, sorry, not going to sell you anymore, or you're not allowed to use this anymore because it's not supported for security patches. For hardware, there will commonly be an end-of-life buy notice, where the hardware vendor says, this is your last chance, buy your chips now, make sure you have enough for all the repair parts you're going to need until you retire your product. Make sure you actually buy enough chips to take you through end of life for the product, or you'll have some big problems downstream. Also, plan ahead for your hardware, storage media, tools, libraries, and so on going obsolete over the life of your product. It's uncommon to have resources to plan for everything and buy an infinite supply of spare parts just in case, but a little bit of thought can go a long way towards avoiding a disaster downstream when some of these inevitable issues occur during your product lifecycle.